Keanu Reeves arrived at a planned visit to a luxury home in Beverly Hills dressed simply. However, the real estate agent who greeted him couldn't hide the disdain in her eyes. To her, he appeared to be someone who shouldn't be there, wasting her valuable time. But what happened that day would not only lead to the real estate agent feeling deep regret, but would also reveal a truth that would change everything. Before we continue with this story, share with us where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because tomorrow we have another special story for you. Keanu, accompanied by the real estate agent, stepped into the glass-fronted luxury mansion located in the heart of Beverly Hills. The garden was meticulously arranged, every corner of the house adorned with luxurious details, dazzling from the outside. However, Keanu showed no sign of surprise or admiration. He continued walking calmly and confidently. The real estate agent, her high heels clicking as she walked ahead of him, spoke with a false politeness. "This property is designed for those with the highest tastes. We only show it to select clients. I'm sure you've realized how unique this place is." However, there was a clear underlying condescension in her words. Glancing at Keanu's simple attire, she added mockingly, "Of course, such a property might be a bit too much for someone like you. It could be quite an investment." Keanu completely ignored the comment and touched the details near the glass door. "The frame seems sturdy," he said in a calm voice. "So, how well is the insulation on the glass? If sunlight creates heat inside, it could cause issues with energy efficiency." The real estate agent briefly showed a surprised expression. She wasn't used to technical questions and was caught off guard by the unexpected inquiry, but she quickly regained her composure and responded impatiently. "Of course, everything is made with top-tier materials. Things like that aren't a problem in a property of this caliber." Keanu still didn't seem fully satisfied with the answer. As he continued to examine the house more carefully, the real estate agent's impatience and discomfort became more evident. Inside, she thought, "Why is he still here? There's no way this guy can afford this house." As they moved to the living room, the real estate agent pointed toward the garden, visible through the large windows, and continued speaking in a haughty tone. "This view is one of the biggest attractions of the house. Of course, to truly appreciate a view like this, you need the right lifestyle." Keanu glanced at the garden and simply said, "Nice garden." Once again, there was no sign of deep admiration on his face, which made the real estate agent even more uncomfortable. As they entered the kitchen, the real estate agent, now with an even more mocking tone, said, "This kitchen is designed for top-tier chefs. Of course, not everyone can adapt to a kitchen of this level." Keanu carefully examined the marble countertop and calmly asked, "Is this countertop reinforced with a protective coating? Carrara marble has a high stain retention rate." This question once again surprised the real estate agent. Keanu's knowledge was far greater than she had expected. However, she maintained her composure and responded with a forced smile. "Of course, everything has been considered, but these kinds of details usually don't attract the attention of our high-end clients." Keanu simply nodded and continued his examination. As Keanu Reeves ascended the stairs, he touched the wooden railings. His gaze, examining the woodwork details, missed nothing. This attention to detail only heightened the real estate agent's impatience. As they silently moved forward, the agent, following Keanu, finally became uncomfortable with the silence and made a more direct comment. "Clients usually interested in properties of this level don't ask this many technical questions when they're inspecting the house." The main appeal here is how the house reflects the lifestyle. Are you thinking of buying this house or just getting some ideas? The subtle mockery in her words had now turned into open disdain. Keanu, unfazed, walked towards a window. As he looked out at the view, he spoke. Yes, I'm considering buying it. But what's important is whether this place suits my needs. The real estate agent was unsatisfied with this answer. Dramatically opening a large door with her hands, she said, "This is the master bedroom." The spacious room and luxurious details were dazzling. A large terrace offered a breathtaking view of the city. But as the agent noticed that Keanu showed no signs of admiration for the view, her discomfort grew. "This is truly a special space," she continued. "Usually, clients who see this place are immediately impressed. Of course, to appreciate a view like this, how should I put it? You need a bit of a refined taste." Keanu paused, still examining the terrace details through the window. His calm expression never changed as he spoke. "Impressive? But is this terrace resistant to strong winds? Has any information been provided about the durability of the glass railing?" The agent, trying to suppress her growing discomfort, answered with a forced smile. "Of course, but clients here usually don't focus too much on practical details. They're more concerned with the lifestyle." Keanu nodded without commenting and began walking toward another room. The agent, thinking to herself, "This guy is definitely wasting my time," continued to maintain a professional demeanor from the outside. As they returned downstairs, the agent's patience had worn thin. Gesturing grandly with her hands, she led them toward the living room. "This space is perfect for large social events. Of course, those looking to purchase a house like this usually host big gatherings. You don't seem the type for this lifestyle, do you?" she said, with a mocking tone. Keanu, still gazing out of the large windows, replied with a slight smile, "Guessing my lifestyle might not be so easy." As Keanu Reeves gazed out of the large windows of the living room, the real estate agent could no longer hide her impatience. Though she tried to maintain a veneer of professionalism, every move she made revealed her discomfort. She turned her eyes to Keanu's attire and calm demeanor, finally unable to hold back. "Look, I'll be honest. This property isn't for ordinary buyers," she said, adding a condescending tone to her voice. "Clients who actually want to buy here don't usually look like you. Judging by the way you're inspecting the house, I don't think this place is right for you." Keanu wasn't offended by these words in the slightest. He pulled his gaze from the window and turned to the agent, calmly asking, "So, how did you come to that conclusion?" The agent, smiling mockingly, continued, "Let's call it intuition. But this place is more than just a house. It represents a lifestyle. And honestly, you don't seem to fit the style of this place." Keanu responded with an unchanged smile. "I see. But to understand what style is, you first need to see the needs. For someone living in this house, what does this style really mean?" The agent, slightly irritated by the response, took a deep breath to maintain her professional composure. "Look, people like you usually don't feel comfortable in homes like this. My job is to show clients the right homes. And seeing how many technical questions you've asked about this house, it's a little out of the ordinary." Keanu again ignored her words. Looking at the details on the wall, he calmly said, "Understanding a house means seeing the details, but perhaps you're talking about something else." Just then, the agent's phone rang. It was a call from the office manager. After answering the phone and having a brief conversation, her expression suddenly shifted. Her eyes widened and her color drained. She had finally learned who Keanu was. As she hung up, she turned to Keanu. The arrogance in her voice had disappeared. replaced by a faint trace of panic. "Ah, Mr. Reeves, I didn't know I should address you like that. I'm really sorry. I think there's been a misunderstanding." Keanu smiled calmly. "You didn't need to know who I was," he said, his voice free of any anger. "How you treat people, regardless of who they are, shows your true character." The agent fell completely silent at these words. She didn't know what to say. The real estate agent, ignoring Keanu's calm demeanor, continued to walk around the living room. But in her mind, there was still one question. Why had Keanu come here? As she looked at his clothes, shoes, and even his posture, condescending thoughts crossed her mind. She had completely lost her patience. "Look," she said, stopping for a moment and turning to Keanu. "I have to be clear about this. Homes like this generally cater to a different client profile. I don't know how you got here, but I don't think this place is right for you." Keanu didn't react to her words. Without any change in his expression, he simply said, "Maybe you're right. But sometimes people can be different from how they appear." The real estate agent completely ignored this response and continued speaking. "Of course," she said with a mocking tone. "But in properties like these, people usually take pride in their appearance and status. Sometimes they buy homes like this just to impress others. You don't give off that impression." Keanu responded with a slight smile. "I don't buy a house to impress others," he said. "What matters to me is whether this place is meaningful and functional for me." At that moment, the agent's phone received a new message. The office manager had sent an urgent call to handle another client. The agent paused for a moment, then quickly put her phone back in her pocket and turned to Keanu. "Could you finish viewing the rest of the house on your own? I have another client coming soon, and they might be a bit more urgent." A faint smile appeared in Keanu's eyes. "Of course, no problem," he said calmly. "I usually think better when I'm alone." The agent couldn't understand how Keanu could remain so calm and relaxed. Who could be this calm in this situation? She thought. But without expressing her thoughts out loud, she quickly walked out. Keanu, on the other hand, calmly made his way toward the kitchen. As the real estate agent hurried outside to meet another client, Keanu was left alone in the quiet house. While examining the spacious kitchen, his eyes landed on a file on the countertop. The file contained plans for the property and information about its history. However, what caught Keanu's attention was a personal document from another buyer, partially visible from the edge of the file. He decided to pick it up and take a closer look. The document contained details about negotiations with the previous buyer. It included the price of the house, situations where the previous buyer had backed out, and notes about a canceled last-minute deal. As Keanu continued reading, he heard a sound from the corner of the room. Quick footsteps approached, and a young woman in a cleaning uniform entered the kitchen. The woman looked surprised when she saw Keanu. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir," she said, lowering her head. "This was supposed to be cleaned. I'll leave right away." Keanu smiled calmly. "Don't worry," he said. "You work here, right? You know the house well." The woman hesitated and nodded. "Yes, sir. I usually prepare the house before buyers come, but honestly—" She paused and looked at Keanu carefully. "Are you the one who's really considering buying this property?" Keanu wasn't surprised by the genuine curiosity in her question. "Yes," he said calmly. "But it seems like people don't really believe that." The woman shook her head. "People can be so superficial. They seem to judge based on appearances. But what really matters is what this place means to you, right?" she said, with a sincere expression in her eyes. Keanu was touched by the woman's sincere words. "You're right," he said. "A house is not just a place. What matters is how you feel here, how well it aligns with you." The woman smiled and, with a slight bow, said, "I have a feeling you'll choose this house, sir, because most of the buyers here come just for show. But you're different," she said, then waved as she left the kitchen. After this brief encounter, Keanu moved on to explore other parts of the house. However, just then, he heard the real estate agent's harsh voice from outside. She sounded annoyed by Keanu still being inside while she was escorting another client out the door. Speaking into her phone, her voice was laced with mockery. "I'm wasting time with, how should I put it, a questionable buyer," she could be heard saying. Keanu, despite hearing these words, didn't react. With a faint smile on his face, he continued upstairs to keep examining the house. Keanu ascended the wide staircase and began to explore the rooms on the upper floor. One of the bedrooms, compared to the others, was less extravagant, but carried a distinctly personal vibe. Old photographs on the walls and child drawings, seemingly forgotten in a corner, caught his attention. This room gave the feeling that a family had lived here for some time. Just then, his eyes fell on a small door at the back of the room. The door looked like it hadn't been used much and, unlike the others, was locked. Keanu's eyebrows raised slightly. "I wonder what's hidden in this room," he muttered. As he continued to examine the area, he heard the real estate agent's voice from downstairs. "Is Mr. Reeves still upstairs? What could he possibly be doing?" she said in a mocking tone. Then, with angry footsteps, she started to climb up. At that moment, Keanu had approached the locked door. A faint light was seeping from beneath it. Just then, the real estate agent appeared behind him and spoke in a stern voice. "Mr. Reeves, this is a private area. Didn't I mention that this door is locked?" Keanu calmly turned to look at the agent. "Then, what makes this room so special?" he asked, without any accusation or anger in his voice. The agent hesitated for a moment before quickly coming up with an excuse. "Oh, it's used as a storage area. Old items. Nothing that would interest you," she said. However, her eyes were growing increasingly tense as she faced Keanu's calm demeanor. Keanu nodded with a faint smile. "I see," he said. "But for a buyer who usually wants to see everything in the house, even a storage area could be important." The agent became visibly more uncomfortable with Keanu's comment. "This is for serious buyers, and these details aren't really that important," she said, pointing harshly at the door. "If you're done inspecting the house, we can head back to the office and go over the paperwork." Keanu responded calmly to the agent's words, but his curiosity about the light seeping from under the door and what she was trying to hide had only increased. At this point, he realized that the agent wasn't just condescending, but also being dishonest. Just then, he heard the voice of the cleaning lady from downstairs. It seemed she had noticed something after her conversation with Keanu. Looking up at him, she called, "Mr. Reeves, were you asking about the locked door upstairs? It was usually filled with things left by the old buyers, but some things are still being kept there." The agent turned to the woman and yelled angrily, "This is none of your business. Stay out of it." The tension in the room escalated with this outburst. Keanu silently watched the confrontation between the agent and the cleaning lady. However, this situation only deepened his suspicions about the agent. As Keanu silently watched the real estate agent angrily shout at the cleaning lady, he took a calm step to resolve the situation. With his hands in his pockets, he spoke gently. "I think everyone here is getting tense. Maybe it's best to just see the room. It shouldn't be this complicated, right?" The real estate agent, feeling cornered by Keanu's calm demeanor, shifted her gaze between him and the cleaning lady. After taking a deep breath, she finally said, "All right, but only for a few minutes," and pulled a small key from her pocket to unlock the door. When the door opened, they were expecting a simple storage room, but instead, in one corner of the room, there was a dusty cabinet, a pile of old files on a table, and a large box in the corner. Keanu walked toward the cabinet, his eyes immediately drawn to an old name tag on the box. It belonged to the previous buyer, with a note attached that read, "Preserve the true value of this home." Keanu smiled slightly and spoke. "It looks like this isn't just a storage room, but also holds some clues about the house's history." He wiped the dust off the box with his finger and began looking through the files. One, in particular, caught his attention, a document about the house's sales history. The real estate agent approached nervously, trying to glance at the document. "These don't matter, just old papers," she said hastily, trying to put the files back in place. However, Keanu gently picked up one of the papers and examined it. "It says here that the previous buyer backed out," he remarked. "Were there some structural issues inside?" The real estate agent struggled to respond. "Of course, every house has some details, but everything here is above standard," she said, her voice trembling. But by now, Keanu clearly understood that she wasn't being honest. At that moment, the cleaning lady stepped forward and approached Keanu. "Mr. Reeves," she said, "what you're seeing here actually shows that this house wasn't sold fairly in the past. A few buyers backed out after noticing problems, but it's not really my place to say." The real estate agent spun around, glaring at the cleaning lady. "Who told you to speak?" she shouted. Keanu, placing the document back down, quietly walked toward the door. Stopping in front of it, he looked at the real estate agent and, in a calm voice, said, "A house's value isn't just in its walls and windows. What makes it special is what's hidden inside and who it represents. Your respect for people could have made this house even more valuable, but I guess some lessons require more time." After saying these words, Keanu gave the cleaning lady a polite nod and said, "Thank you." He then walked out of the room and down the corridor. The real estate agent, watching Keanu leave, was left alone with a mix of regret and anger. When Keanu reached the door, he turned slightly before exiting and calmly added, "Maybe you acted this way because you didn't know who I was, but that shouldn't have mattered to you." After these words, Keanu got into his car and quietly drove away.